This is true wilderness construction at its finest. Surrounded by ice and snow, with howling winds outside and snowflakes dancing across the sky. The man used local materials to build a shelter from snow. The structure is not only sturdy, but spacious enough for one person, and its excellent insulation maintains a relatively comfortable temperature inside. Waking up to a blizzard raging through the forest, Mark quickly packed his belongings, shouldered his backpack, and set off again. But the snowstorm was too fierce, with wind and snow nearly knocking him over, and visibility dropping rapidly, forcing Mark to change his plans, heading instead to a shelter he'd built nearby, intending to wait out the blizzard there. Lighting the wall stove, his frozen limbs slowly regained feeling as the forest outside lay buried in snow, with flakes still dancing wildly in the air. After some time, the snowfall gradually stopped and sunlight broke through the clouds. Mark found an open clearing nearby, grabbed his shovel, and began gathering snow from the surroundings to the center, planning to build a solid igloo. He'd seen videos about this online before, showing how in extreme cold, snow's poor heat conductivity creates a natural insulation layer, keeping the cold air outside while maintaining warmth inside. Considering his height of 1.8 meters, an ordinary snow pile wouldn't suffice, so he gathered 4 additional piles of snow, then took out a tarp from his backpack, laid it on the ground as a snow transporter, and moved all scattered snow onto the main pile. After much effort, all surrounding snow was gathered into one massive pile rising from the ground like a small mountain. Mark then turned to gather more snow, but his foot slipped, sending him sliding uncontrollably down the slope at an exhilarating speed, like riding a sudden thrilling slide. After catching his breath, Mark stood up and climbed back up the slope on all fours. Then he collected dry firewood nearby, chopped it into small pieces, lit a bonfire in the clearing, found an iron bucket, filled it with fluffy snow, cut 3 branches, quickly built a tripod, placed the bucket over the fire and waited quietly for the snow to melt. During this time, Mark went to the nearby reed pond and gathered some reed poles. He also passed by the shelter he had built earlier and instinctively went closer to check it out. What he saw was disappointing. The shelter was filled with water that had frozen solid, making it clearly uninhabitable. Back at the snowdrift, he carefully tied the reed poles together. By now, the snow in the bucket had melted into water. He dipped the poles in the water and evenly sprinkled it over the snowdrift. The biting cold wind instantly froze the water on the snow, creating a hard shell that bound the loose snow into a solid structure, giving the igloo the ability to withstand harsh weather. Next, Mark took out his shovel, bent down and began digging into the side of the snowdrift, gradually expanding the living space. As he continuously scooped out the soft snow, he quickly created a space just large enough to sit in. Finding the roof too low, he continued digging upward to create a rounded dome ceiling. This structure cleverly distributes external pressure, preventing the igloo from easily collapsing. Mark then quickly moved aside, took out a spray gun from his backpack, lit it near the fire, and blue flames immediately shot out. He swept the flame along the edges of the entrance, similar to how he sprinkled water on the snowdrift, both techniques turning snow into hard ice, though the spray gun was clearly more efficient. Next, Mark crawled into the igloo, holding a spray gun to heat the entire dome. Where flames touched, snow quickly melted, then refroze in the frigid air, creating smooth, even ice patches. Time flew by as he worked. As darkness fell and fuel ran low, Mark switched off the gun to save some for tomorrow. He then grabbed his backpack and blanket, ducked into the igloo, and prepared for the night ahead. The cold inside hadn't fully dissipated, numbing his hands and feet. He took out a small gas stove, scraped clean snow from the wall, and boiled water. Holding the warm cup, heat spread from his palms throughout his body, finally thawing his frozen limbs. Outside, all was quiet, except for wind rustling through branches. Mark carefully checked around the igloo for animal tracks or signs. Satisfied, he returned inside, slipped into his sleeping bag with the still warm stove nearby, his only heat source for the night. Early next morning, Mark, who'd barely slept in the cold, made installing an entrance door his first priority. He assembled a door frame and wrapped it with plastic film to block the wind. Looking at the thin frame, he felt it wasn't sturdy enough, so he relit the fire. He shoveled snow into a bucket and melted it into water. He poured a layer of water onto the frame, then added a thick layer of snow. Repeating this process, he eventually created a solid snow door panel. While preparing to install it, Mark found the doorway was larger than his door. He carefully packed snow around the edges to fill gaps and ensure a perfect fit. Only this way could he keep the bitter cold outside. After finishing these tasks, snowflakes began falling from the sky again. Mark didn't rest. He grabbed his tools and set out once more. His target was a nearby frozen lake where he used a saw to cut out 2 solid blocks of ice. He then carried the ice blocks back to his igloo and placed them against one wall. Next, he found 2 logs, marked their positions, and carved grooves in the ice blocks, planning to build a bed for resting. He returned to the lake for 2 more ice blocks, which he had pre-measured to fit perfectly with the bed frame. After laying down a sleeping bag and blanket, the unique ice bed was complete. With 1 ice block remaining, Mark studied it briefly before deciding to transform it into a small table for his personal items. Everything was now neatly arranged as darkness fell outside. Mark lit the gas stove to celebrate completing his igloo and to reward himself for days of hard work. He took out a chicken steak from his backpack and placed it in a pan, filling the igloo with sizzling sounds and mouth-watering aromas. After his feast, Mark brewed a cup of sweet and sour fruit tea to cut through the richness. Completely satisfied, Mark slowly crawled into his sleeping bag on the ice bed, ending his productive day.